千里之行，始于足下. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Daodejing by Lao Zi. Here we are once again, everybody. I want to invite everyone to center yourself, to gain that Tao state of mind in participation for this process, where your energy together with everybody else will make this a special occasion. So once upon a time in ancient China, there was an old sage living at a monastery. He had a potted orchid that he tended to every day. He loved it. He would water it. He would nurture. He would make sure that the potted orchid could get plenty of sun every day so that it could thrive. So one day, he needed to be away for a few hours. So he knew he wasn't going to have enough time to do the care of the orchid as he normally would. He asked his two young disciples to take care of it. He entrusted the care of the orchid to the two young disciples. And he said, please be especially careful in watering the orchid and moving it around to catch more sunlight. Please be careful. Now, the two disciples were perhaps too young, too rash. They heard the sage, but they didn't really listen. They were distracted, they were careless, and they also wanted to claim credit for taking good care of the orchid. So they pushed each other out of the way to do this particular chore. One of them said to the other, out of my way, I'm going to take care of the orchid. The other one pushed him back, no, you get out of my way, I'm going to do it. And in that shoving back and forth, one of the young disciples bumped against the flower stand where the potted orchid was. It came tumbling down, crashing to the ground, was instantly smashed. This was the unfortunate sight that greeted the old sage when he returned. His precious potted orchid ruined on the ground. And the two young disciples were busy blaming each other, arguing, you pushed me, that's why this happened. No, you started it. You were the one that pushed me first. No, you did. Pointing fingers back and forth. When they saw the sage returning, they quieted down, but they still glared at one another with the dagger eyes of blame. Now, they expected the sage to be angry about this, perhaps even rage, because they knew how much he cared about the orchid. They also knew that it was their mistake. So perhaps there would be punishment. What the two young disciples did not expect was that the old sage remained as calm as ever. So instead of scolding, punishing them, he just started picking up the pieces, which they hadn't done yet. So they were amazed and surprised. And they could not contain their curiosity. They asked the old sage, Master, why are you not more upset? Why are you not angry? The old sage turned to them and he said, very simply, he said, well, my original purpose with this plant was to nurture something, make it live and thrive, so that I would be able to calm the mind and contemplate the wonder of the Tao. the nurturing essence of life. That was my original purpose. My purpose was not to have a reason to get upset. Getting angry now will not serve my original purpose. So why should I get angry? The end. I wanted to use this story to illustrate this idea that when you keep in mind, when you remember, when you recall the original purpose of anything, that very oftentimes has a simplifying effect. It has an effect to cut through the complexities so that you can arrive at a place of peace. So what I want to do is to bring that to your attention and to suggest that this has ramifications to different situations in life. Now, this is actually a story that comes from one of my books that's related to one of my entries in one of my books. Let me show you what that is. From the Tao of Joy Everyday. Now, the story itself does not appear in it, but in day 56 from the book, the Tao of Joy Everyday, it actually speaks to this very topic. When I wrote it, I did not check against the chapter number of the Daodejing to make it match. Because after all, there are only 81 chapters in the Daodejing, and there are 365 days, and therefore 365 entries in the book. So there is a coincidence, synchronicity, where day 56 in the book is exactly about this topic. So day 56, to paraphrase, talks about how for all of us, life can have challenging moments. Isn't that the truth? Sometimes, just like the old sage, you can find yourself in a situation that can potentially annoy, can be upsetting, can make you angry. So when that happens, it can be very useful to take a mental step back, to review the situation, and just like the old sage, ask yourself if the negative emotions, the complexity, the overwhelming anxieties, negative thoughts, are they consistent with your original purpose? This can be as common a situation as when you're driving, when you're on the road and there are people who are driving poorly or rudely or not considerate to other drivers. It can be very irritating when you find yourself in a situation like that. So applying this idea to that driving scenario, you may want to consider that your original purpose for driving is to gain greater freedom and mobility to take yourself to places that are too far away for walking. That's the original purpose. The original purpose was not to put yourself in a situation that can irritate you, upset you, or anger you. So you can dismiss that irritation, the possible annoyance, as something that simply is distracting you from your original purpose. So what about more personal interactions? What about with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers? There's going to be times when you find yourself disappointed, right? When you find yourself let down by someone. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. So imagine that this scenario occurs at work and some coworker did not hold up his end and that's causing a cascade of other problems. Of course, that can be annoying, that can be frustrating, that can lead to anger and the finger pointing in blame and accusation, etc. So if that is the case, when you find yourself in that particular scenario, consider, hey, what is the original purpose here? What is my original purpose for working? Well, come to think of it, the original purpose was to make a living for myself, my loved ones, to build a secure future for me and my family. That was the original purpose. It is not to seek out opportunities to be frustrated or disappointed. That's not the original purpose. So with that in mind, the simplifying effect is that you can dismiss the disappointment as something that hinders you, that gets in the way of you achieving your original purpose. So this is useful to remember whenever you are at the beginning stage of a darker moods coming on. What is the original purpose? When you can keep that in mind, it is much easier to remain calm and level-headed. Why? Because you are in touch with the unity of purpose, with the oneness of the Tao. That is what gives you clarity and appreciation for life and helps you keep your focus. So that's the story about the potted orchid, meant to complement that page 56 or day 56 from the book. It's about unraveling the knots. And let me just reiterate for everyone's benefit that the knots represent complexity in our lives and also contention among people. I said that it could be internal or external. The complexity when it comes to contention among people will be external. Complexity when it comes to thoughts that are confused and jumbled up, that will be internal. So the more complicated things get, the more confused and annoyed we tend to be. That confusion, that annoyance can so easily transform into much more negative emotions, the anger and rage, as I mentioned. So to reduce that complexity, to get it back down to the simple, what we can do, first, we need to calm things down. So externally, if it's a contentious situation, to lower the temperature, that means getting everybody back to common ground. You know, hey guys, we're all in this together. If it's the workplace, we're all trying to accomplish something. We need to work as a team. The common ground that you seek that can bring about an area of agreement for everybody involved, that has the effect of lowering the temperature. What if it's internal? What if it's just within yourself that you have these complex thoughts that threaten to overwhelm your peace of mind? Well, it would be time to center your mind, center yourself, take deep breaths, take a mental step back to review the situation from a detached perspective, a technique that we talk about quite a bit in these talks. So that is the internal way of attaining calmness and also to lower your temperature internally. Then it will be time to reflect on the key questions. And this is both internal and external. The idea is that you want to ask yourself, what are the Tao principles that apply here? What can I use from the things that I've been studying? Then you also want to, again, ask yourself the question, so what was the original purpose? Why are we getting distracted with all these other considerations? What that original purpose is, if I hang on to it, it will help me unravel the knots. So that is the way to use the Tao. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Let us all travel safely so we can meet again. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.